who's ready for another episode of the Maverick Makers podcast. This week we have Chef Matt Basile. Chef Matt spent over a decade disrupting the food industry as the founder of Toronto's most recognizable food truck brand, Fidel Gastro's, and popular gastropub, Lisa Marie. Today, as the co-founder of Alchemy Grills, he's taking on a new frontier, disrupting the barbecue and live fire cooking landscape. Matt has partnered with two seasoned entrepreneurs to launch Alchemy Grills. The Alchemy is the first barbecue to allow home cooks the option to smoke and grill food at the exact same time on one appliance. In addition to helping design the grill, Basile is developing recipes for an accompanying line of rubs and sauces and designing stylish merchandise for the brand. This introduction is making me so hungry, no pun intended. I can't wait to dig in. You ready? Let's go. Hi, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Maverick Makers podcast. I am so excited to have Chef Matt Basile, co-founder of Alchemy Grills, on the show. Look at him. He's in the perfect setting. He's outside enjoying the beautiful weather. Maybe he'll take out the Alchemy Grill later and give it, build some fire or something, cook something amazing. It's Friday. Why not? So welcome to the show, Matt.
Thank you for having me. And you nailed the last name. So points there. And then, in fact, as soon as you and I get off this kind of interview, I gotta go get charcoal and fire up the grill. So
amazing. What are we cooking for dinner tonight?
So we got a game night tonight. So we got about 10 people coming over for some what are we playing? Balderdash. And good old hearty balderdash. And so I've got ribs, wings, and a picanha roast. I'm gonna slice up for like sliders and stuff.
That sounds so good. So much meat.
Thank you. A lot of meat. There's other things too, that non-meat things.
Yeah.
But that's just what's going on in the barbecue. Like I can tell you about the pepper salad, which is very good. The peppers I do, but it's not as flashy.
I love it. Okay, well maybe one day I'll work myself into an invite over.
Yeah, right?
Amazing. All right. So when you reflect on your life and career, who do you think the Mavericks were that influenced your life?
I guess there's a few different moments in my life where I could pinpoint someone. The number one obvious person would be my grandfather, my mother's father. We're Italian Canadian, so my nonno. And, he passed away probably like a year-ish into me being an entrepreneur. So I was really happy that he got to see the launch of it. I think he was always someone that, very hardworking, very intelligent, a little stubborn, a lot stubborn, so, and I think I get all of his best and some of his not so best qualities. But one thing he always taught me was just the need and the importance of making things from scratch. And that can be very literal in like making food from scratch. I took that, I think, to the next chapter, which was like making a life from scratch. And obviously he never had that. He left a life in Italy. They were family-run buffalo mozzarella farmers. So he left the family business, came to Canada with nothing. You've heard the story. So many, of our immigrant, family members was like, came with nothing, built a life, and they just made so many sacrifices for this like legacy that they never even knew existed yet. And I truly believe my grandfather made decisions for me without even me being alive yet. And then when I, did grow up, I grew up very close to them, like physically, only a few blocks away, and I was very, very lucky that I got to spend a lot of my, foundational growing up years around both of my grandparents, my nonna and my nonno, and they took great care of me. They instilled those old school values. They fed me well, and then they taught me the importance of feeding people. And that's always been a framework of how I do business, is is that kind of mindset. So I think if I had to narrow it down to one guy, one Maverick, it would be my non-no.
Beautiful. You mentioned something and it sort of piqued my curiosity. What's building a life from scratch?
Like a career, being an entrepreneur is essentially that, right? You just are building something from nothing. And that is building from scratch, really. Like, I decided, 13 or 14 years ago now, um, that selling sandwiches off a table would someday build a career for me. Like, I never thought that was actually a viable thing, but I knew I had to start somewhere. So now it's like the thought of, I was actually saying to my business partner yesterday, like, if you wanted to really crush me, like throw me into an office from 9 to 5, Monday to Friday, and my brain and my body would just probably combust. So that's really how I see the building of life from scratch, building a career from scratch.
Makes sense. So like just doing it, just not, there's no manual. You just like, okay, I'm going to do it. Kind of like how
Yeah.
I started.
And you kind of have to be okay with the fact that, excuse me, that you'll probably fail, or you'll have different versions of success and failure, and be okay with that. I think as you get older, you get a little bit more worrisome about failing when you're young. So I was 26 or 27 when I started my entrepreneurial journey, right, which is quite young. And I just knew I wanted to do what I was going to do. And like I said, it was great for my grandfather to be alive for the first little bit to see it. And I think it came with a lot of pride and a lot of his own fears and worries about me, and rightfully so. Like, I had a job, and then I was like, yeah, I'm gonna make sandwiches.
That's awesome. Have you ever been called a maverick?
I don't think I have. I think, not the word specifically. I think I've been called, if you were to look at all the attributes of a maverick, I've probably been called all of those things. I don't think I've ever been outright called a maverick, though, I gotta say.
Matt Basile, you are a maverick.
Oh, there we go. There's the first.
There you go. There you go. So
There has to be one.
there has to be one. That's all it takes.
Yeah.
So let's talk about your maverick journey. So, starting from your food truck, even if you want to go before then, Fidel Gastro, your Lisa Marie, your Netflix series, Rebel Without a Kitchen, and now Alchemy Grills, if you can just sort of take us through that journey.
Yeah, so I guess the year was 2011, and it was a hot summer night, and I had just knew I wanted to be entrepreneurial, and the only thing I really knew in my core was how to cook for people. Like, that was it. And I think there's two schools of thought when you become entrepreneurial. It's like you follow a passion, or you follow a skill set, right? And I think if you can have both of those things, the passion that you're actually skilled at, it's a good combination. And the best part was the passion has always been there. The skill has just gotten better over time. So I think when I started, I had a lot to learn still, but the passion is what allowed me the time to learn it to a point now where I'd say I'm proficient at that thing, cooking, whatever it is. So long story short, it was like I wanted to open a restaurant, a sandwich shop called Fidel Gastro's. Couldn't get the money to do it. Was at a party, got inspired about just doing food parties, and I was like, okay, I'm going to do pop-ups, and started doing Fidel Gastro pop-ups all over the city. And from there, it became a food truck. And then from the food truck, we got a TV show out of it, which followed my life. From there, we opened a restaurant. From the restaurant, we grew into a couple other different arms of the business, like quick service restaurants. So we were like the first local food company to ever open up inside the Air Canada Center, which is now Scotiabank Arena. Even our restaurant, I had no experience ever working really in restaurants, but I was like, yeah, we should open a restaurant. Hindsight's 2020. I learned a lot really quickly about it, but again, we were busy enough and popular enough that I was able to learn as we went, and then that kind of helped catapult other parts of the business. The food truck was a cornerstone of what we did because it was just very much an energy thing. It was fun. It was also very, very cutting edge at the time. So there was a lot of reasons why our food. And then from there, like, as we became more mature and more qualified to do the business side of it, launched a pretty substantial, catering division off of all these things. So I had all this different food service things happening, but also trying to maintain our identity of being different within the space. And that's hard to do over long periods of time. Like to be innovative, to be relevant, to be trendy over a decade isn't easy, especially in the food business, which is like very like, everyone's got very, very small memory gaps, right? We're like, oh, what's the new shiny thing is happening now, right? So to sustain popularity over time, it took a lot of pride in that because I know it wasn't for, it took a lot of work, like physical work to constantly keep it going. But like everything though, and I'm a true believer, everything has a beginning, a middle, and an end. And after about 7 years of doing the restaurant, Lisa Marie, I thought it was time to kind of close that chapter, which is crazy because it was at the peak of its popularity. So like, I remember being interviewed by City TV News, like the last service, and we did all the last 2 weeks of service. We only did brunch because brunch is really what we were known for, at least Marie. So I was like, you know what? We're gonna do brunch for dinner, brunch for brunch all the time. I don't care. So yeah, so I remember City TV coming in the last service. Sorry, I get emotional sometimes. Anyways, well, no, because it's weird, right? That's your life that you're like playing back in sections, and this was a very visceral section because you're so emotionally drained and involved in the day to day of it. So, City TV, they're interviewing us on our last service, and they're like, Matt, how does it feel to be closing a Toronto institution? I was like, whoa,
Yeah.
what are we talking about here? Like, that's a huge label we just did. It caught me off guard, but I'm still, 5 years later, still very grateful that people still talk about it, ask questions about it, ask for it to come back, which you won't, so all those things. And then it ended up being the best decision ever because COVID happened like 6 months later, right? So, again, the writing was on the wall that things needed to change. I wasn't expecting, a global pandemic to also happen, but I think some of those issues that were existing pre-COVID have now, are exasperating, like cost of doing business, food costs, labor cost, everything is just much tougher. So I didn't think it was just right. And then, so from there, I just shifted to the catering and the food truck side of the business. And that, we'd shifted to a new offsite kitchen. We're, going through that still during COVID, but still found a way to be us and be busy. And, we had collaborated with this brewery that was next door. So we were doing food for that and a couple different venues. So we were busy all the time. It also meant I was busy all the time. Like I was working almost as much as I was day one of business. So here we are like 10 years later and you're like, oh my God, I can't believe I'm still doing all this stuff, like you think that you have a little bit of growth and then it just takes something like COVID to reset it all. And then it was through that where I was kind of approached by someone who I really respect, a gentleman by the name of Ron Tite, incredible advertiser, marketer, author, public speaker. You know Ron?
I know I don't know him like know him, but I know of him, and I'm big
because
work.
He's a big energy guy. And the funny thing is, whenever I mention Ron Tite, people often know, and I'm like, oh, you know Ron? Like it's a bit of a joke I have with Ron. I'm like, oh, you know Ron. So Ron's a great guy, and I've known him for over a decade as well. And he was just like, hey man, like a friend of mine has a barbecue company. Would you like to be like an influencer? That's how it started. And after speaking with a friend and another friend, it turned out that the barbecue company did not exist. They were not a company yet. They were still very much in the ideation stage. And I just gave them a couple hours of my time and my thoughts. And they ended up just making me a third business partner. And, we were developing now a barbecue. And then when all the shutdowns and startups and starts and stops of COVID were happening, I finally just like looked at my my girlfriend and I was just like, I gotta tell you, I think I'm done. And she's like, what do you mean? I'm like I don't want to do this anymore. And I think that's kind of not why I got into this business or into business for myself. And I always knew that the day that I was like not having fun with the work was the day that the company was done. So we were still, content was still a huge part of our business. So we kept that going. Public speaking was a part of the business, kept that going. Consulting for other restaurants, kept that going. And then this new layer of launching a barbecue brand, I thought was really interesting and something that spoke to my skill set, spoke to my passions. I felt like it was an interesting enough product that if we could do it properly, it would get a lot of attention. And, so that was about 3.5 years ago. And now Alchemy has been in retail for about a year and a half. So we did a lot of work with regards to like prototype testing and design modification and just really trying to understand what it means to build a product from scratch and allow that to exist in people's backyards and have them cook on it every day and create their own kind of memories and recipes and stuff like that.
Well, I've been watching your content and you're cooking on this crazy thing. And I'm like, as soon as I can, I got to buy one of these. But I got to hire you to come over because I can't cook for my life. So anyways, it is such a show. It's just, and the food looks amazing. And it's amazing. It's an amazing product. It really is.
I really appreciate that. I think we've spent a lot of time on different aspects of the business that have felt natural, but I think have also been quite strategic and intentional, because when my business partners kind of brought me on, it was for a lot of reasons. One was my connections in the food business, my connections in media, my just overall knowledge of food and being culinary driven. Because yes, it's a product, but ultimately that product delivers dining experiences for people in their backyard. So food is a driver, but also my content background and how content's always been such a big part of my how I build businesses. And what I said to them, I go, listen, like a lot of the content I used to create was very like over the top and in your face and very almost like tchotchke-esque, and relied on a shtick to keep the narrative going. I'm like, here's the beautiful thing about this product is that it's quite visceral and it sounds beautiful just by virtue of it, the way it cooks. And I think I'm going to just scale back the content and just allow it to speak for itself. And that's how we shot it. That's how we've always shot it. And people really resonated with that because of the intimacy that's created, and it's meant to draw you in. It's meant for you to say, oh my God, I want to make that. I want to try that. I want to have that in my backyard. I want to have these experiences and these moments and these memories with people that I care about. And I think there's something very powerful about that story, because anyone can have any barbecue in their backyard. We want one that's a centerpiece to how you live outside, right? Like that's really the point of the Alchemy. And if you already feel like starting your barbecue is too much work, then this is not the product for you. And I think that's a huge, important factor, right? When you can say we are for some people and we are not for everyone, and we understand and recognize that. Because once you're like a commodity product, which is great, like you're making way more money than we are, but you're probably void of a little bit of that passion that I think is required at the startup phase.
So you've now added productpreneur to your resume, and I would say educator now.
I guess so, yeah.
Because, you're teaching people, right? So there's a whole education element. That's what I was fascinated by, honestly, when I was like seeing you cook, and I was like, this is fascinating. I want to learn how to do this and look at this food, and maybe there's hope for me. But
maybe there's hope.
Maybe there's hope. But tell me why you're so passionate right now about teaching people how to cook with fire and this whole concept.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, there's two ways to answer that. The first one is that my business is a product around cooking around fire. So I want to inspire people to do that so they buy the product. So that's like the easiest kind of way to answer that. But if we were to pull that back, I ultimately recognize just how connected I am to the food I serve now by this virtue of cooking over an open fire. The live fire is probably humanity's first real innovation and invention. It brought us health, longevity, security, community, anything that I think we know as our current existence, you could probably trace that back to the existence of fire, right? So to be able to connect with fire and feed people and have that moment, that bite just be, so memorable, yet also so simple. I take a lot of pride in that. And you say educator, I actually try to just more lead with inspiration than anything. Yeah, there's very tactical things about, to turn this on, do this, do that. But when I get to that point, I've already done the harder work, which is getting someone to like want to connect with that style of cooking. And I don't think I've ever been this dialed into a style of cooking before. I think previously I was just, jumping from a restaurant to this, to that, to that, to that, so it can just become more operational and tactile. And now it's like, oh wait, I've been cooking outdoors essentially on one product for 4 years. I can actually make the claim that I'm probably the best in the world at cooking on an Alchemy. And that's kind of a very cool, and I don't mean that from an ego-driven standpoint. I mean it purely from put in a lot of hours, and I recognize how that product works. And so if I could be that for this product and teach people how to use it and inspire them to want to use it, I think that's a really powerful tool, because I think once you enter the world of like, we need a commercial to, inspire someone to want to purchase a product, I think that's the goal, but you can't start there, right? You're going to start from a far more meaningful place versus something that's kind of a mass meaningful place.
Mm-hmm. So the inspired Maverick that you are now, twice now, I want to know why it's called the Alchemy Grill. Why the Alchemy?
So my business partner, Scott, came up with the name. They had already had the name when they brought me on board. And ultimately, if you think of just, historically what an alchemist is, we're trying to essentially do that with fire and food, right? Like make everything turn from one thing to gold ultimately by the time it's done.
Are they connected to the book, The Alchemist?
I don't think so.
Oh,
maybe we could call him right now and ask. But
I'm very curious because it's literally my favorite book. So I was like,
is it?
Yes, yeah.
So then, for the purpose of this conversation, yes.
And yes, okay. I want to know the answer. Perfect. And explain to people, what is it exactly?
So yeah, from a product standpoint, it is the world's first of its kind, which allows you to both simultaneously smoke low and slow and grill hot and fast at the exact same time. And I know that might seem like a no-brainer, but the way it's been engineered, it's a vertical unit. So there's two fires. There's a lower fire, which is more controlled through airflow, air in, air out, and it's powered by wood and charcoal. And that's what powers our lower unit. It's a cabinet smoker, but the best part about that is it can be a smoker, but it can also be just an oven, really like a wood and charcoal powered oven. So you can do everything from, low and slow smoking, traditional barbecue, to, higher temperature roasting, to even higher temperature baking if you wanted to as well. And then on top of that, there's this incredible circular fire pit, which powers two cook surfaces, one being a flat top and one being kind of a live fire grill. And that's kind of more the showpiece element of the grill itself. It looks cool. It's got a great smell to it, but it also allows you to cook in a variety of different ways. So when I'm showing it off to people, and I'm listing all the things it does, and to people that love, outdoor and charcoal cooking specifically, they hear all this and they go, "Oh my goodness! Like normally I need one grill for this and one grill for that and one grill for this." So it's like we have consolidated all these different styles of outdoor cooking into one product. So I often just end the sell track with it's the Swiss Army knife of outdoor cooking, and people immediately kind of resonate with that.
Holy innovation, Batman! Like,
yeah,
wow, it's just like I can't even imagine what it took to build this product. It's amazing.
To be honest, I am not an engineer, so I don't know. However, One of the coolest parts of my career as a chef has been to work with engineers and work with manufacturing teams and help them understand applicable knowledge, right? So often a product is made by people that have never actually used or done the thing that they make, right? Like their specialty is engineering. Their specialty isn't necessarily in the field of what they're engineering. So to be able to work collaboratively and iteratively with those two fields, I think ultimately when it's in the customer's hands, and if you go through like our product feedback, one word you see pop up again and again is like, they really like thoughtful. They put a lot of thought into this. They really thought of everything. There's a thought behind why this is positioned like that, and it's a really good use of space, and like it's just all those things kind of come together, and it's like, yeah, like that was kind of what we were hoping to do. So I'm really glad it came through.
Amazing. What's your favorite thing to cook on the Alchemy Grill?
Ooh, favorite thing is tough because there's a lot of great things to cook. I think typically the first thing I'll always do is like a tomahawk steak, mainly because you can use every aspect of the unit in about a 1 hour time period. So it really gives you that full sense of, you can go from lower cabinet, upper grill, simultaneously without having to necessarily, have a secondary unit and bring it inside or whatever. So I think it's just a really good product, a really good dish to make people as a first time showcase, and then some smashed potatoes to go with it, little chimichurri, little charred pearl onions, some stuff like that. Just keep it simple, but lots of great flavors that really kind of blend, like that smoke and that fire and the fattiness and the crust and the acidity of the chimney. Like it all just comes together really well, and it makes a very good first impression dish.
First impression, indeed. I'm coming over later.
Yeah. We've got not tomahawks tonight. We've got picanha steaks, which is also a favorite of mine.
Delicious. I love it. What's the best piece of advice you've ever been given?
Oh, wow. I think there's a lot. So, I mean, my grandfather always used to say to me, work hard, be smart. And I think that really simplifies how you should approach being an entrepreneur. You need to work hard, but then you can't just allow your body to run the company. Your brain has to also do its fair share. So I think that's always really stuck out in my mind. And then Michael Bonaccini, a very famous chef in Toronto here, and a good friend. I remember one time he and I were sitting down, and he was like, Matt, the food business is a marathon and not a sprint. Mm-hmm. And I think it's very true, because whenever you see someone, start out the gates, they almost instantly crash, or crash much sooner had they had planned out for the long game approach. So I think it's approaching it, business with that lens. And even though I'm not in the traditional food space anymore, it's a very lateral business within it.
I love that advice. And it's so true. It is. It's the long game. And that's why there's so many entrepreneurs, unfortunately, that don't make it past 5 years. So that's awesome. I love it. All right.
Yeah, well, it's good. It's always served well.
Absolutely. I could talk to you forever. I really could.
That's okay.
Are you ready for the lightning round?
Let's do it. I love a good lightning round.
Okay, good. All right. Sweet or salty?
Oh, salty for sure.
I need that answer. Coffee or tea?
Coffee, always.
Always, okay.
Not a tea guy. Not a tea guy.
Fair. Lake or ocean?
Oh, it's very specific as to what the land is that the body of water is attached to. So if I get to pick, it's going to be ocean.
Okay. Is there a particular ocean?
No, but it's just usually attached to somewhere warmer. So
fair.
Yeah.
If you could have one superpower, what would it be?
Can we come back to that one?
Absolutely. All right.
Okay, let's go back to that one.
Okay. You have a cook-off with anyone in the world. Who are you cooking with?
Who am I going up against?
You're going up against. Bring it.
Ooh. I would love to cook in the next to Francis Mallman. He is the godfather of live fire cooking. I think I would just be, fanboying the whole time of doing it, but it would be an absolute honor at some point in my career to cook alongside Francis Mallman. For no other reason than to just say, like, thank you for inspiring me to really embrace live fire as my true path of being culinary.
It's amazing. That's great. Favorite spice?
Oh, it's not really a spice, but I'm gonna actually have to say lemon zest.
Ooh,
Anyone that's ever had my cooking at home knows that a little bit of lemon goes a long way in almost everything I cook.
okay, I'm gonna try that. All right. What makes you the most happy?
Um, I love my family and I love my girlfriend. I love my dog and I love working. So I think it's just like, I think when I have things just happening in every aspect of my life where I can have a great fulfilling day of work and then come home and have, my family there and everyone's healthy and they're happy and I'm happy. I think ultimately that means a lot to me and the people closest to me are also happy.
Beautiful. Where do you find yourself the most creative?
Where do I find myself the most creative? On my walks, actually. I think, having a dog forces you to walk a lot more. And I love walking my dog. She's the best dog on the planet. So it's funny because when you have these moments where you're forced to just do something for someone else or something else, sometimes it allows you the opportunity to work things through that you maybe had a hard time working through when you were just actually sitting down trying to do work. So yeah, I'd say my morning walks, my evening walks were the best way to do it.
Amazing. How do you want to change the world?
Honestly, I think changing the world really comes down to just having a great impact on your very immediate vicinity. I think far too often people that try to change the world have these big plans, and what they forget is we're all connected. Everything is community focused. So I'm a big fan of like inspiring and working with and helping the people closest to you. And if everyone did that, then our closeness would then spiral outwards.
I love that.
Thank you. Not bad for a lightning round, right? I still owe you one from before.
Yeah, you ready for it?
Yeah.
All right. What's your superpower?
I don't want to ever get full. I want to just be able to keep eating. I just don't let me go to the buffet and never let me go, oh, I'm so full. Oh, let me just keep eating.
Best answer I've ever heard in my life. Love it.
Yeah.
I love it. All right. Last question. What's next?
I don't really know. And I think any entrepreneur that does know, they're either about to retire or they're lying to you. So I think for us, it's, we are still very much a small player in a world of giants. And that comes with a lot of challenges, but also can be quite rewarding. So I think the goal is to just keep building and hopefully, if I'm being honest, like build the brand up to the point where it gets acquired and it can be a giant or, compete with the giants. Because I think this company is just so much bigger than what we are, or at least its potential could be so much bigger than what we are. So I think it requires that gritty entrepreneurial start, but at some point it needs to also have some size to it in order to be a legitimate player in the outdoor live fire barbecue space. So I think that would be our what's next is how do we get it from where we are currently to that next chapter to really see it have the opportunity to be an international product, because I truly believe it is an international product. The people from around the world message us about how to buy their grills in Belgium and Australia, and no idea. Yeah, we don't know how to do that. We've never done that before. So let's, and so I think being able to be that kind of a company sooner than later would be what I'd love to see as a what's next.
Well, all I'm picturing is a beach, some really good steaks or fish or something, but the ocean, the grill, you cooking. I might be a guest. But anyways, this was an amazing, amazing conversation. So thanks. I can't wait to see what's next. We're going to see what's next. It's going to happen. I know I can feel it. And check out Alchemy Grills, because if you're hungry, even if you're not hungry, just the show is amazing. And so thanks
Dinner
again.
and a show, right?
Dinner and a show. There you go. Well, thanks again.
Thank you. I really appreciate your time today.
The Maverick Makers podcast is sponsored by Maverick Makers Content Creation Collective. We fuel your content pipeline through video, photography, design, and editorial. Let's connect to your audiences and make more sales. Learn more at maverickmakersco.com.